so much joy in starting this podcast for multiple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say my biggest joy is I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And so just loads and loads of joy of being back together. Love when y'all are in town with me.
Mm.
And my second joy, if you are watching on YouTube, you're like, wait, am I on the wrong podcast? Like, things are looking very different, and they are looking very different. Look at this amazing studio that we have set up. It just tons of joy, always trying to like raise the bar over here and do new things. But today we are not talking about joy. We are actually talking about pain. And we did an episode recently about numbing pain. And that was like such a big hit. We had several people reach out about it. So we wanted to dive deeper into this issue and talk about how when you are living in pain, chronic pain even, that it's everything can become painful. Just about anything can be painful. And so we're going to share a little bit about that today and some things that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis have discovered in that, both with themselves and with clients. So welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open the emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationship and in ourselves. I'm your host, Tira Wages, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis Hill. And together they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection. And we're so glad you're here.
Yes. Hello, world.
Hi, friends. So, yes, we're in a new studio thanks to Tira and Wes Wages.
Yeah, I was going to say we have to give a pretty big shout out to
Yes,
Wes.
absolutely.
He's amazing.
And what a surprise for us. We've been gone since August 1st. So, really, it's almost 3 weeks that we've not seen each other.
Yep.
So, it's really good to be back home. You know, we travel a lot. And so then when we're home, we try to fit in a lot. But the studio is gorgeous, and it's so fun to be here today. And
Now, I do need to interject because for our listening audience, you need to know if you ever have a secret, don't tell Tira. Tira maybe, I'm not saying she win the gold medal, but she would medal if the Olympics had a worst secret keeper in the world category, because she actually asked it. When did we see you? Was that 2
no, it
weeks
was
ago?
on the phone. It was
our meeting last Monday.
Yeah.
Our team meeting.
Okay, we were Zooming. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she literally asked us, she goes, I have a secret. Do you want me to tell you what it is?
It was a surprise.
A surprise, yeah. And I'm thinking, well, isn't that by definition not a surprise? And Tira doesn't get that. So she's missing that gene in her.
I need to clarify that a little bit. I'm actually really good with secrets. I'm not great at keeping surprises that I have planned for other people. So Glenn and Phyllis did not know that we were redoing the studio. In fact, this morning when they walked in my house, I was like, sorry, we're behind. I don't have the podcast stuff set up, because normally you see it right when you walk in the front door.
Right.
And I was like, but Wes wants to hang out with y'all. Why don't you go upstairs and hang out with Wes for a few minutes? And so it was a complete surprise. And when I have a surprise for someone, I get so flooded with joy about the surprise that I just want to clue them in on it. Like, I want them to know what the surprise is. So I'm great at keeping secrets. I'm not great at surprising people.
But somehow that messes up the surprise aspect of it. If you tell them what the surprise is.
It does, yeah.
Remind me not to have you help plan a surprise birthday party.
Yeah. Poor Wes Wages. I was going to surprise him for his birthday this last year, and I made it to about, his birthday's in November. I think I made it to June.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I have a surprise. I'm going to take you to Alaska for your birthday. You know, like,
surprise.
Could not wait any longer to not let him know what was happening.
Okay, since this presents itself, we just have to say this is the reason we say core emotions are not positive or negative, good or bad, because Tira gets flooded with joy and it pushes her to do something she kind of doesn't even want to do.
Yes.
But so the joy is not evil, the joy is neutral. But the unprocessed joy then pushes her to behavior that she doesn't really choose. And I, right now, at least this phase of my life, I think that joy is probably does more damage than any of the other core emotions. And my favorite core emotion now for this period of time is shame, because shame draws us higher. It calls us to be better version of ourselves. And again, we faith-based people for many, many years said, no, joy is good, joy is from God, all the other emotions are bad. And it's just not true. Emotions just happen, and we need to get the message from them, listen to the question they're asking us, and that helps to propel us to be better surprise keepers in this situation.
Well, I love that you said that too. So I want to hear, because you said shame is your favorite. And I actually presented the connection codes this weekend. I spoke at a conference in Columbus, Ohio. And when I was presenting the core emotions, I said anger is my favorite. I love anger. It is my driver. And that's why we got this done. Like, honestly, I was so angry in how our studio was looking at my dining room table every time, and having to set it up and take it, all of the things where I was like, I've got to get this done, and I've got to get it done now. And so I love anger. So Phyllis, I'm curious of what your favorite emotion is.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot.
Sorry.
Okay, while you're thinking of it, because I want to, Kira, can you share about getting this done, because your kids were elsewhere?
Yes.
Incredible opportunity for you and your boyfriend to hang out. And so what were you doing with this romantic evening alone together?
Yes. Well, I started the project last weekend, and the blue paint took me 3 coats, which was unexpected.
Wow.
And my mom called because she was taking the kids for us to go to Columbus. She was like, I'll take them a night early so y'all can have Friday night to yourself. And Wes is like, ooh, we're going to the pool. I'm getting a margarita. Like, we're about to relax. I was like, sorry, buddy. That is not the plan for tonight. We are finishing this podcast studio.
And Tira would rather have hung out and had fun. But it's the anger that drives you, goes, oh, we got to get this thing done. We got to complete this project. It's important, it's valuable. And anger does a beautiful job if you're tuned into it and you let it do its job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a coaching client who messaged me a few weeks ago, and he was processing some things. And I was like, well, what's happening for you? He said, I'm angry and I want to stay angry. I think he had fear that I was going to try to convince him not to be angry about the thing. And I was like, ooh, no, use the anger. Tap into that anger and see what it's trying to get you to move into action. And so anger is not bad. It moves us into action. All right, Phyllis, did we give you enough time?
No, not at all. Which is kind of maybe a typical Phyllis, right? To go, oh, I don't really, I mean, I think my safest answer is I like joy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
What a good person.
right. Because I have a really hard time connecting to anger as a driver.
Yeah.
Guilt is probably more of a driver for me than anger, because I have a hard time tapping into anger. So, it's interesting what you said about shame, because then I think, well, maybe that is also kind of because of the shame, then I do the course correcting often, like I remember years ago, before connection codes and before I had the language of emotion, that I would say I'm a struggler, but I don't give up. Like, as in, I may struggle with my goals, but I keep making goals and I keep working towards my goals. It is fascinating that you were saying, anger got this done. And I do think a lot of people start projects and don't ever get them done.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we all really knew how to find our emotion, connect to our emotion, process our emotion, if we would actually be more productive people. And it's not productivity as in, oh, you got to get your house cleaned. It's more productivity in the things you really want to do in life.
Yeah.
Maybe you're trying to write a book and you just keep procrastinating. Well, we even have words for it, like procrastination. But I wonder if we could tune into the emotion, like what happens for you that you don't prioritize writing that book? What happens for you that you get so easily derailed? And sometimes it's logistics. I think we do in society, like I think there's often, even through social media, reels or, speakers that kind of bring that out, as far as we are so distracted by our phones, by social media, by things like that, that before we know it, time has come and gone. And it's like, shoot, I was going to sit down and write, but instead I scrolled for the hour that I'd set aside to write. So I think there are some logistics that derail us for sure, but I also think we don't know how to tap in. We don't know how to identify. And, I would say as a Connection Codes community, we're, constantly getting emails where people are confused. Like, why is there only one positive? And, they're so, the others are negative. And it's like, well, no, they're neutral. They're they just are. But you have to shift that thinking, I would say. That's really important that you shift it. And then just tuning in to yourself. I don't know that I can give you a favorite or...
No, I love that though.
Yeah.
That was a great point. And just like that, they all serve their purpose. I really do love that.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it wasn't that many years ago that you and I started talking about, I just asked you one day, I said, do you feel any joy connected to guilt or shame? And you looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language, and you said, what? Like, I don't think the question even made sense to you. And that was, I think, a new trajectory for you to be like, wait, there's supposed to be joy connected to guilt and shame. Guilt and shame are just trying to help us improve, trying to help us not miss that, not make that mistake next time, not miss on that next time, not be the lesser version of your husband next time. So shame is trying to lead me into my best version, which would end up producing joy. And that had never occurred to you before. Maybe it never occurred to me before either when I brought it up. I don't know. But to realize that these core emotions are our guides, are our consultants, they're trying to help us. And I was taught, and I think it's been the teaching for many centuries, is that emotions are from Satan. Emotions are bad. Emotions are evil. We need to resist them, suppress them, ignore them, step around them, whatever. As opposed to grabbing them going, oh, my consultant is here. Because to me, if somebody pulls up beside you in traffic and says, hey, you have a flat tire. Well, don't be mad at that guy because he told you you have a flat tire. He's not trying to harm you. He's actually trying to help you. And that's crappy news. Well, congratulations, you have a flat tire. But I'm glad you got the message. That you needed that message, because otherwise you're going to be on the interstate. All of a sudden, I don't know what the tire's going to, I'm not a car person, so I don't know these things, but does the tire just come off? What happens?
It can if you ignore it. Yeah. Don't keep driving. You got to pull over.
That's why become debris on the interstate, it just starts unraveling.
Oh, wow.
I think that's also a great point because I do associate joy with anger. Like I feel a lot of joy when it's core level anger, there is joy in that for me. And so I think that that's also confusing to people that they don't recognize that the two can go together. And so we use these big words like overwhelmed or confused, anxiety, and that's usually a mixture of emotion. But when you actually break down and go deeper into those, you can find the core. And so for me, joy and anger going together, because I had joy in doing this the other night. Wes and I ended up staying up till after 1 a.m.
Oh, my word.
Which was a horrible idea because we were leaving for Columbus, Ohio the very next morning early. We had not packed anything. I had not decided all of these things. And it was joy that was like keeping me up and we recorded a podcast, and it's like, why are we doing this right now? So yes, joy and anger go together. Now, this is a great time to transition and actually do the core emotion wheel. So if this is your first time listening and you're like, okay, they're talking a lot about emotion and being able to actually decipher shame or decipher anger, and how can you tune into those things? It is through the 4-minute tool that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis have created. Many of us have seen emotion wheels, but they were actually able to narrow that down into our core emotions. And that is found in the 5 neural regions of our brain. And when we can actually process these emotions out, we can use them to our benefit. We can use them to connect with each other in a relationship, and we can use them so we're no longer being weighed down. Like for some of you may be like, shame is his favorite emotion. Whoa, I thought we were supposed to be running from shame, get rid of shame. No, when we can actually use shame for its purpose, it can make us a much more powerful version of ourselves. And when we can identify it and process it, we can stop drowning in it, which is exactly also what we're talking about today, is the drowning in the pain. So do y'all want to start with the wheel?
You have to interject because, just what you said is so crucial for people to understand that these emotions are for our benefit. They're trying to help us. We don't want that. And I want to clarify that. I'm not saying I want you drowning in shame for 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 hours, even 3 minutes. I want you to process that core emotion shame in 30 seconds or less and to glean the message from it, gain from it. And you'll do it again in 20 minutes or an hour, whenever it happens. It doesn't matter. And also, you mentioned so many words like overwhelm, stress, anxiety. We think of those as emotion words. Those are really the results of unprocessed emotion.
Right.
Then I get it, they're in the emotion realm, but actually you end up being overwhelmed, feeling overwhelmed, which sounds like a feeling, because you have all these unprocessed emotions. And we can't process overwhelmed. It's like, what the heck does that even mean? And we all know it means something. We can't process stress. And what we've done as a culture is we're like, well, we're going to treat the symptom of stress. So you need to do some deep breathing. 100% in favor of deep breathing. I'm not saying it's bad at all, but that's trying to deal with the result of the unprocessed emotion. So our goal is to go back to the beginning, which is what we do with a 12-month-old. You don't walk into a 12-month-old and say, you need to do some deep breathing. You need some time alone. You need some meditation. That doesn't even make any sense. We would never do that to a 12-month-old, an 18-month-old. Well, there's no birthday where that's supposed to change. If we function the way we're originally designed, we call it coded, then you don't end up in that situation where you're overwhelmed, where you feel the stress, whatever it is.
Yeah, love that.
Wow. Okay. Core motion wheel. 2 minutes or less. Here I go.
Okay.
Lots and lots of sad over the last couple of days. Glenn's mom left for South Carolina on Sunday. Just felt a lot of sad. And today, my brother's wife, Wendy, who's been with us all summer for 8 weeks, she just left to go back home. And we've just had a blast together. She was here to take care of Glenn's mom, but she was just incredible. Yeah. And so I've just been kind of real teary and just really sad. My hurt is physical right now. I'm passing kidney stones, so I'm in pain. And I think that kind of takes me to some fear because we have a lot to get done this week, and then we're leaving for Hawaii on Saturday. So I do have some fear of just my body being what it needs to be. And then I think I do feel guilt and shame just with, I want my body to be functioning at the highest possible level, and it's not, and it hasn't for quite a while. And I do feel guilt and shame about that. Probably shame would be the first, just like, what in the world? And because I feel that I'm really in tune with working on that and doing all kinds of things to boost and help my body. And it just seems to not. Let's see. Lonely. I think that probably with my sister-in-law, Wendy, leaving, that lonely comes back in because she's been incredibly supportive of projects and, watering the flowers and all the things that is in our life. So I'm like, ooh, that's back on me. So that feels lonely. Anger. That's always a tough one. I think anger over the last few days that just with Glenn's mom, that we should have had conversations with her years ago about what is your plan when you get to an age where you really need help, supported help. And I have regret that we did not have those conversations maybe 5 years ago when she was still really spunky. And now that she needs help, it's realizing she's never planned for this for herself. So I feel anger in that. Joy, tons of joy over this new studio. Tons of joy to be back in person with Tira. I love that always. Lots of joy about going to Hawaii on Saturday. Yes. So just need my body to be well. So.
Yeah.
For me, I always feel guilt that I'm missing something with you. Just I want to take care of you and protect you and be there for you. And, especially when things happen physically for you, I don't know what to do. And I just want to tune in and make sure that I'm doing whatever I can. A lot of times I don't know how to help you pass a kidney stone.
Right.
Just to be present with you in the pain. Lots of shame with the whole situation with my mom. Just the big question marks. Am I handling it the best possible? I'm not shooting for perfection, but just, are we being who we need to be in that situation. And that's just an ongoing questioning, like, hey, I don't know. We've never navigated, I know many people have, we've never navigated this exact trail before. So it's certainly new for us. And that same anger for me, it's like, how did this end up being? Because, we're trying to live our lives and do our things and we travel, over half the time, way over half the time. And continually on the go. And then it's like, wait, what about mom? What do we, what's her situation? We have to see to it. And like you say, that should have already been set up. And somehow it just ended up, it dumped on us, but so much of it, on you. And that really is very annoying. Fear in that situation too, and fear with your health, just what's happening. And, are we being smart? Are we being careful and wise and cautious, etc.? Just knowing what's, our life is shifting pretty dramatically. And some fear just, getting us to pay attention and go, are we handling this well? Are we setting ourselves up for success for the future? Let's see, lonely in that a little bit, especially, of course, I come from such an incredibly dysfunctional family that I don't have connections and support in that, in particular, involving mom, because it should be just this huge group effort, and it's not. And somehow I and then you ended up just responsible for all this. Like, how'd that happen? Did we vote? I don't remember voting. How did that end up playing out that way? Lots of sadness in that. My mother's a remarkable person, but I don't know that my entire adult life, even way back into my childhood, that we ever really connected the way that I believe in connection. Just lots and lots of sadness with that. And plenty of hurt with my whole family of origin setting, just ongoing. I'm 62, so I have no idea, well over half a century of pain that has occurred in that dynamic. Lots of joy about just where we are, where we're headed. It's so exciting, just tons of joy. Even in we were in Jamaica 2 weeks ago. We were in Ormond Beach last week, and it's just a blast getting to do. Of course, getting to do anything with you is thrilling, but we've just had a lot of fun, really cool adventures. And I know that, as far as we know, it's just going to continue and get better and better. I love it. And joy in the studio too.
Thank you. As you're sharing about going to Hawaii, y'all are going for an intensive.
Right.
You're going to be working. And so some people may be listening like, well, at least you get to go and relax. It's like, no, that's not what we're doing. It'll be beautiful scenery, but you're going to pour into a couple and help them get unstuck, which takes a lot of physical and mental energy. And so getting you feeling well always is a priority, but definitely before you're going to pour in to other people.
Well, I know you need to do the wheel, but since you mentioned that specifically, like we're going to Honolulu, and the other fun thing is that we have connection coders in Honolulu. So we're going for an intensive, but we're staying an extra day or two so that we can connect with the connection coders.
With Ryan and Angie?
Actually, Ryan is deported, and Angie is going to be in the States getting her daughter into college.
Deported. Isn't that a bad thing, deported? I think he's on a deployment.
Yes, he's not getting deported. Yes, sorry, Phyllis.
Yeah, that's the wrong word.
We're lambasting Ryan.
Yes, sorry. Ryan is deployed.
Deported.
Not deported, deployed. And then Angie will be in the States. So we're going to miss them, but we have, because of them,
quite a community,
a whole group of connection coders. So we're going to get to see those guys.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I bring them up because they, it always starts with two people. And I know I've been emailing with them for well over a year. Y'all have met them previously, and they really brought y'all to that area, and it's changing people's lives. And you got to do an event there just a couple of last year sometime.
Last year.
And so it is really cool whenever you travel and you're going for someone who doesn't even live in Hawaii, but you happen to be going somewhere where you can meet up with other people and develop those relationships.
Since we're talking about that, I just have to throw that out because I love what you say. It just starts with somebody having, first of all, becoming a connection coder, realizing that, we're coded for connection. So let's do this. Let's honor our coding. And then you just share it with a friend. and they become a connection coder, and then they share it with a friend. And before you know it, you have a connection codes community. That's happening all over the world. It's blowing our minds. And most of the places we travel now, there are connection coders who contact us and say, oh my gosh, can we have lunch? Can we have coffee? Not coffee, I like tea. But it's just because I really want people to get that vision that, okay, yeah, we love Tira, we love Phyllis and Glenn, but forget them. We're going to lead a connection codes group here. And we're going to Northern Canada down the street from Santa Claus's neighborhood later this year. And this couple just took it seriously, and it's running through their town. It's unbelievable what they've done, like affected so many people. And it's just because they said, we're going to be connection coders, and it is spreading. And we now know so many people from that area that have contacted us. And we're like, dang, this is, I guess I'll say their name, Jordan and Erica Coop, are just astonishing. They're amazing people anyway, but as connection coders, they've really just gotten focused and on point, and it's amazing.
And they became certified coaches.
Right.
And so now they actually have the ability to teach it to those around them and offer foundations, through their own licensing and really get some really good support. And so if there is a listener who's like, I want to help spread this word, like I want to get this into my community, become a certified coach. And that is the best way to do it. We actually, certified coaching, we are starting September 7th with our next cohort. So as long as you're listening to this podcast before that date, reach out to me. We may have already closed applications, but still reach out. We'll see if we can make it happen for you. But we're launching certified coaching, and that is how these people are really making a massive, massive impact on their communities. So thank y'all for sharing. I'll do the wheel in another episode. I know we're doing a few today. I want to dive into today's topic, which is when you're living in pain, the effect that has on yourself, and then also how it bleeds into your relationships. And I know that we kind of divide pain into emotional pain and physical pain, but they fire in our brain the same way. So our body can't distinguish between the two.
Well, our body can, our brain.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Our brain can't distinguish between physical pain and emotional pain. And the difference is that I'm curious about, to see what y'all would think. I was actually working with someone yesterday who's doing calls for me right now for a coaching program. And I have found that people are not investing into their coaching program, into this, until there's a physical ailment. Like they're ignoring their mental and emotional pain for years. And then now they're actually willing to invest, because I'm also talking to people that it's deep emotional pain, deep mental pain, but they're like, I can't spend the money. But once I get someone on the phone and they're like, I'm experiencing hives, I'm experiencing headache, like I'm experiencing all of these issues, those are the people who are like, I'm ready. I've got to do a shift. And so I'm curious what y'all's experience and how it has looked for people that y'all are working with.
Yeah. There's a slide in the Foundations Masterclass in one of the bonus modules that we reference as relationship science that has just a massive listing. We know this now. It's very, human behavior, the human condition is so difficult to study and pinpoint something. You put 2 particles of hydrogen with 1 particle of oxygen, you get water. You just do. You don't have to run that research 1,000 times. You do it once. You're like, there we go. Now we know. Humans aren't like that. There's so many ingredients. But we now have multitude of 30-plus year longitudinal studies that very clearly show, that these unprocessed emotions lead to, and you mentioned a few, but I mean, it's endless.
Yes.
Hypertension, panic attacks. We think that that's what sets the body up for succumbing to cancer, because we all have cancer. It's just a matter of whether or not the body's handling the cancer. So anyway, and that's a whole nother, that's a series of podcasts just talking about that. But to realize we're not kidding around here. This isn't like, oh, well, what flavor of ice cream do you like this week? This is life. This is not only life as in this literally can kill you. It's a question of quality of life. And when people are living crushed, strangled, drowning in these unprocessed emotions, it's brutal. And the human is not designed for that. There's not a 12-month-old on the planet that doesn't process emotion. They're coded that way. They don't do it because they decided to. They just automatically. So we're set up that way, and then we get knocked off course and we slowly forget to do that. And then we end up 20, 25, 30, 50, whatever, and we're completely emotionally stunted.
Yeah. Well, and then we also have, so that's talking about how the emotional pain does eventually affect our body. So we have people that are living in deep emotional pain and they're unable to show up in their home. Like you gave an example of your kids can be laughing, but if you're in emotional pain, like that's still going to feel painful for you. You can't experience that as joy because you're drowning in the pain. But then we also have physical pain. When people are experiencing chronic physical pain that could be due to kidney stones. It could be due to a car accident that they were in, some kind of accident that they were in previously. And so that pain is also firing in our bodies and how we can process that to still show up. And so you were talking about even y'all's to experience right now. So do you want to share?
Yeah, well, actually, in just, we always do a little bit of a touch point before we push record. And so, it's interesting because we were thinking or talking about a specific client who, if you looked from the outside, they have everything, very well off, and yet the dad is in so much pain, emotional pain, that there's no joy. There's no joy around his children. There's no joy in the house that they live in, the property they have. And that got us talking about when you're in pain, it's like it everything else can become painful then.
Yeah.
And yesterday for me physically is when the kidney stone stuff started. And it comes and goes. It ebbs and flows. But when it's bad, it's like I have to go curl up in a ball. Mm-hmm. And so the pain becomes so great that I can't enjoy the people around us. And it was our last day with Wendy, my sister-in-law, and I had wanted to do all kinds of special things, but I could not. I just had to go curl up in a ball. And, then I felt a lot of sad because I wanted to go hiking with her and she went by herself. And then my other brother who lives in town invited her to go out. And I felt sad because I wanted to be the one, I wanted to be there. I wanted to be the one doing special things. And at one point, Glenn came up and goes, I thought we were taking her to dinner for her last night. And at that point, I wasn't in excruciating pain, so I could have, but we didn't know earlier in the day. And because I was so much in pain. And so it just got us talking about how much pain affects us.
Yeah.
And I do think so many things go hand in hand. Working with a client right now who has a lot of emotional pain, a lot of hurt and wounding in a family relationship, and they own a company. It's a family-owned company, and the father passed away. Well, she is in a tremendous emotional pain, but it's manifesting itself throughout her body. So she is having trouble with her knees and with the list is kind of endless. And so we were talking this week and last week about it's like we go to deal with physical pain. Often, of course, we're blessed. We're in a country where we can go to urgent care. We can go to our primary care doctor. We can get in to be seen pretty quick when we are in pain. And, we know that a lot of Western medicine is, let me give you something for the pain. We don't necessarily try to find the root of the pain, and especially if the root is linked to emotions.
Yeah.
So I was sharing with her because she's doing physical therapy. She's trying all kinds of things, and it's not working. So I'm talking to her about that she is not dealing with all the hurt within her family situation and losing and being fired, and on and on. It's really hard for us, I think, to understand the power that is in our body, right? The power of that and what it takes over. And I mean, even like with me having kidney stones yesterday, you go, oh, okay, what's happening in your life right now that's putting you more susceptible to something like that. And it's like, oh, I could write a long list.
Yeah.
Like, there's no surprise to me
Yeah.
that my body is not fighting like it should be able to. It's capable of fighting.
Yeah.
So what is breaking it down right now? And it's like, oh yeah, look at all that's going on in my life. So it is, it's like that constant, gotta tune in, gotta go, okay, what's happening? Say it, find it, say it out loud. And with this particular client, I was encouraging her to say the word hurt out loud. And she said, I'm really uncomfortable with that. I'm uncomfortable if I'm by myself saying something out loud. She's like, I'll say it in my head. I said, well, there's a lot of power in saying it out loud.
Yeah.
But even that's fascinating. Like, I was trying to, so what happens for you with that idea? And she said, well, shame. It just, feels inappropriate to speak out loud when you're alone. Like,
Yeah.
So we kind of dug into that a little bit. Just that I think as a society, we kind of say, well, if you talk to yourself, you're crazy, or, we label it in a negative way.
Yeah. I went on a podcast yesterday as a guest, and this podcast host, she specializes in ADHD and entrepreneurs that have ADHD, and giving them tools to help become more organized in their life and get back in control of their life. And she mentioned that when I was sharing the wheel with her, that she encourages ADHDers to do voice memos. That's something that they will do in their phone, create a voice memo that helps them sort it out and also remember it. And she was like, this is a great tool if you're alone, voice memo it. Actually open up your audio recorder in your phone and say it out loud into it. And so that's also a tip if you are someone that just sitting there at your kitchen table saying it in their bathroom, just saying it to nothing. If it feels uncomfortable for you, try it by recording. And
that's a great idea.
I also really like being able to track it as well. I have a Monday ritual with my business coach, and I'm supposed to track it has on there what was your stress level last week? What was your enjoyment? And I always feel like I don't feel stressed. Here was my lonely. Here was my hurt. Here was my pain. I do the emotions instead. And I told him, I was like, I'm putting notes on here for me to go back and see where I was that week. And so even audio recording it, you'll be able to go back and see, okay, this is where I was then. And this is what I've come out of. So that's really helpful. And I love the point that you made as well, that when you're living in the pain, it's hard to find the joy. That's actually something I spoke about yesterday or Sunday when I was at the conference speaking and presenting, that, emotions aren't good or bad. And oftentimes when people look at our wheel, they'll say, well, I don't want to feel those emotions. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel hurt. And what I actually discovered in this process of learning the wheel or about emotions, I had a really hard time identifying joy. I really struggled identifying joy. And if you just asked me at the time, are you happy? I'd be like, yeah, I'm happy. But I was drowning in pain and lonely and hurt and shame. My motherhood journey of having 4 kids in 5 years, and then COVID hitting and a husband on the road, and just complete isolation that I was in for those years, I was drowning in pain. And it's actually by doing this process that I've released so much pain and I can find joy in I'm a much more joyful person now. And it's because I'm intentional about it. One of my coaching clients, she messaged me this week. She can text me during the week when she gets stuck on things. She was like, I'm going to start messaging you every time I feel joy, because she's trying to get back in touch with her joy as well. So she sends me a piece of sourdough bread she made that night. She was like, joy. And it really can be difficult to find that joy when you're drowning in pain.
Yeah. And just like you said, that people say, I don't want to feel sad, hurt. You're already feeling this. This is just the human condition.
Yep.
There's not a human on the planet that doesn't feel pain. Sorry, no such thing. It's not happening. There's not anybody on the planet that doesn't feel fear. No one on the planet doesn't feel shame and guilt. We simply ignore those. Yeah. And even with what we reference as sociopaths, for many years we thought, oh, they don't experience guilt and shame. No, they do. They've just learned how to, whatever you want to call it, ignore it, suppress it, cover over it. Their brain's actually firing it. They just don't tune in to it. So our goal is to just tune in. It's already happening. We're not trying to introduce sadness into your life,
Right.
which is a big part of our story. As the connection codes were starting to gel for us. And Phyllis would say to me, well, I don't want to feel sad. I don't have time to feel sad. And it finally occurred to me, I'm like, babe, I'm not trying to get you to feel sad. You already, but this is the year that her mom was passing away. You already feel sad. We just need to do something with that.
Yeah.
And so, and again, we've heard that so many times, all three of us have. People like, well, I don't want to feel those things. Well, welcome to planet Earth. It's already happening. We're not trying to introduce it. It's already there. Now we have to decide what we're going to do with it.
Yeah. I think that's incredibly powerful. And that's what I want our listeners to take away. When you're starting this process, we're not trying to encourage you to feel these emotions. Like, I think that is where people get stuck is they think, oh, I don't want to identify when I feel hurt. I don't want to identify when I feel shame, because we are taught to suppress the shame and because we are taught to not live in these things. But it's actually identifying it that frees, like that gets it out of our body where it doesn't stay stuck, because we want you to be sitting in a room where your kids can be laughing and you can experience the joy of the laughing and that not be the pain experience for you. In fact, last night, we were putting our kids to bed and it was way later than it should have been. And it hit me how much work I still needed to get done before I went to bed. And as soon as that hit, I felt a lot of pain, so much pain. And then I became really snappy with anything that they were doing was no longer funny to me. Anything they were doing, I was like, no, I am done right now. And the example that you gave, you can't play cards with your friend if you're sitting there in pain. That will not be a joy experience for you. And so Dr. Glenn and Phyllis showed you earlier in the episode how to use the core emotion wheel in relationship with other people. But you can also use this with yourself. I encourage my clients to start the day before you sit down at your computer. I'm working with entrepreneurs and people that are in leadership positions at work, high stress work environments. Start your day doing this. That way you can clear your limbic system and actually focus on what you have in front of you with more joy, being able to touch that joy and processing the pain out so you can experience the joy.
Yeah, and we're hearing from more and more connection coders who, they're really stepping it up a notch, and they're doing we talked to somebody, I think it was yesterday, said that she sets a timer for every 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Every 2 hours. And the thing is, it takes 2 minutes and you'll get it down to a minute and a half. And you just pause and you do the core emotion wheel, and then and like I said, it clears out the limbic system. Your cortex is engaged efficiently, effectively, and now you're a smarter version of yourself. And you will get more done in that next hour if you stopped for a minute and a half to do the core emotion wheel. And if you don't, and we've all experienced that, where 20 minutes go by and we're just like, shoot, what have I been doing? I didn't get anything done in that 20 minutes. 20 minutes is 1/3 of an hour. That means you just lost 33% of your productivity. Yeah. And that's true for everybody on the planet. Happens all the time. And so pause, every 2 hours, whatever, and do the core emotion wheel. And that's part of the beauty of the tool is it's so efficient. Just do the wheel instantly and, post the wheel all over your house, hanging on the bathroom mirror in your car, carry in your pocket so that you always have it there so you can tune in, because most of us don't know this language. We were born with it, but we forgot it a long time ago. And if you ask people and we sit with people all the time when they're just starting the Connection Codes journey, they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what happened for you today? I don't know, nothing. And they'll literally sit and stare at the wheel for minutes and they're just stuck and totally blank. Well, that's because they've forgotten the language. They can't remember that word that's actually inside of them. They just forgot it.
Right.
One thing I think before we close that's super important is that as a society, physical pain we have more tolerance for.
Yeah. It's
Emotional pain we have very little tolerance for. You're starting to share something with me that's like emotional. Like I'm quick to say, well, get over it. Or we'll choose joy. Well,
look how blessed you are.
You don't need to be sad. Well, lonely. There's no, come over or let's go do something. You don't need to be lonely. Like we really don't have, as a society, a whole lot of understanding of emotion for sure. But I think it affects us so much because we hold so much inside.
Yeah.
we are in so much pain, but we just hold it inside. We don't share it because there's just way too many people who respond to our pain or to our, all the emotions with some kind of rebuttal that is basically saying, get over it. And to realize that only brings more dysfunction, more dysregulation, more pain. That approach of stuffing it then manifests itself in all kinds of crazy stuff in our bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we could just realize that, and you may be either the person on the other end who's quick to say, oh, just pray about it, or, oh, choose joy, or get over that, count your blessings, or you may be someone who has been stuffing pain and stuffing it because you don't think there's any tolerance for it. Like no one wants to hear that I'm sad. No one wants to hear, that I'm really hurt, that I'm lonely, that I'm really struggling with feeling a lot of shame right now. And that's where you've got to learn the truths about emotion. And then you've got to have some safe people in your life who can, what we call, ooh you well, which simply means they're going to listen. And they're not going to try to change you or give you advice. They're going to listen and make space for you to process your pain or whatever it is that your fear, and without being judged in it and being told to don't feel fear.
Yeah. No, that is a really, really great point to make, that as a society, we tolerate physical pain and acknowledge it way faster and with more urgency, intensity than we do emotional pain. And that's true as a society, which then we do that to ourselves because that is the standard. And I witness that on every call that I'm on with people of just the people that are experiencing deep emotional pain. They're like, well, I'm just going to stay here. Like they really have just kind of so far been willing to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait it out and see if anything changes. And it's not until it switches from the emotional to physical, when they start getting the physical symptoms of it, that they're like, I will pay you anything to help me with this. And that has been very interesting to see.
And I just have to say, it's the exact same parallel. Your check engine light comes on in your car and you just ignore it. And then eventually your car ends up on the side of the interstate with smoke billowing out of the hood. And then you call the mechanic.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you have to, but oh my gosh, we're so far behind now. And the mechanic's going to come and go, well, this is now trash. You burned up the engine. I'm not a car person. I don't know what that equals, but you've done so much damage that, we still got to do something, but I don't know what we're going to do. This is going to be a major, major project to try to fix this. We're doing the same things to our body. The check engine light comes on, you have a migraine, you have a panic attack. You're feeling all of this, and we just ignore it, or we treat the symptom, we try to mask over it, and then eventually the whole car breaks down, and they were like, well, and I'm talking about things like heart attacks. There's so many things that are debilitating, and the vast majority of that, the research is now showing, can be traced back to unprocessed emotions that built up, and then we ignore the check engine light, and so eventually the car just doesn't run anymore.
And the doctor would say it traces back to stress. That's the word that the doctors will use, but that is caused through the unprocessed emotion.
And it does trace back to stress, but that's not far enough tracing back.
Right. Well, that's just the word. If you're in with your doctor and they're not going to say you have unprocessed emotion, they're going to say you need to reduce your stress. That's what will be said.
We could change this.
So I just want listeners to hear, that's what you will be told is this is caused by stress. You need to reduce that. And so if you're listening and you're like, okay, I want to get ahead of this, please download our Core Emotion Wheel. We have it for you where you can download it at no cost. Like, it is silly if you don't already have this printed off and by your desk or on your refrigerator. And that link will be in the show notes. And if you're like, okay, I am already I am in deep pain. I am already on that road where I am having a hard time touching that joy because I have so much pain in my body, or I'm so numb to anything that I'm not even feeling joy. Because that's also a symptom of pain, is like you just numbed yourself. We have, you can jump on a call with us. We'll have a breakthrough call with you where we can like look at what is happening for you and in your body, and point you in the right direction to get unstuck and get you on the other side of where you're at. Don't wait until it's physical. If it is physical, book a call. Like that's a do not wait at all. But if you're just like, whew, no, I am drowning in this, there's a link in the show notes where you can get in on that. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't watched on YouTube, click on our YouTube and see our new setup. We just have so much joy in that. And we do all of this because...
Yes, because you need this.
You deserve this. So let's do this.
Let's do this.